Ross Valley Sanitary District. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item after the call is to adjourn the closed session, but if the public would like to speak, if anybody would like to speak before the closed session, then you're welcome to. We would ask that you speak from the podium, and you don't have to, but we'd like it if you give us your name and where you're from. So would somebody like to speak? Yes. Now the board is can hold no discussions at this time. We can't even ask questions, so special comments are no.
I don't know this podium is. Okay. So are you providing a microphone?
Point of order. I think during this time it's recorded. Am I correct?
Yes.
All of this is recorded. Okay, so are we on?
We're on recording.
Thank
yeah.
you.
I don't see any red light.
We don't have
Okay. You are engaged in a blatant betrayal of the public trust. Requests for transparency are met with added secrecy. I remind you that purposeful evasion is a violation of your oath of office. You were elected to serve this agency, not dismantle it. Reputable directors are accounted to their electorate. They conduct district business openly. They welcome public participation. They recuse themselves lest board actions be perceived and rejected as biased, coerced, or of questionable integrity. Tom, you should recuse yourself. Terms of the proposed settlement should be fully disclosed before any board vote. And the bond issue must not become a means to preempt litigation of material issues. There can be no defense for board members who act against the interest of their ratepayers.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Carrie State near Mill Valley. Just to say that I think that disclosure of the terms of the proposed settlement would certainly be better made before any vote is taken on it. I think you owe that to the public, and I do not think that that standing behind a privilege makes any sense in this situation. Privilege is the private communication between a lawyer and the client, and not between opposing party and client. And here you have a settlement offer. I understand that you will be reviewing from the opposing party, and that should be made public so the public can comment on it before any decisive action is taken. To comment on it after any settlement is reached seems meaningless. And I wish you would give the public a chance to comment and know what the provisions of this proposed settlement are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Nancy Okada. I'm from San Antonio. And I would urge you to conduct your business in public with this settlement. The proceedings, you have some public that's actually interested. It's very rare. And in fact, usually the public, when it's conducted in public, doesn't show up. But in this case, the public is really interested in what's going on, as well as the public assets that are at stake, given the settlement possibilities. So I really think that the income that's coming in that needs to be disclosed and talked about, and the public needs to know. We're constantly getting rate increases from the Ross Valley Sanitary District, and we need to know more about what is going on and behind the scenes. There is precedent. It's a public body having public, it's not a personnel matter, to my understanding. So I would encourage the board, given its history of a lot of savory business, exactly. And I remember first becoming aware when the grand jury investigation was moving forward against a number of board members. I would really like to see this agency look good and upstanding and be honest and be forthcoming and be transparent. and I would appreciate conducting business in public so that we could actually hear what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Valerie, but just to piggyback on what Nancy said, I remember the headlines in the newspaper were something like the 3 little pigs and what they had done with public monies. And I hope that people will remember what happened to those people who were serving on board at that time. Once it was uncovered, the illegal shenanigans, what happened to public monies. People will find out, and there will be consequences.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So a couple weeks ago when this first came to be, I attempted to send each of you, got caught in quarantine, and I never got a response back from Mr. Norby if I got out of quarantine, but I attempted another approach. Your counterparts to this investigation and decision did receive the information, but it was in a seminar that I had attended with many other board members offered at the county level for the Brown Act and ethical training. It's a 2.5-hour presentation that I sat through, and I took excerpts from it in regards to specifically closed session items. And it specifically had a case example in which if one is involved within a 5-year point in time with anyone else within this investigation and closed session, that you must stand aside. And in fact, having gone as far as you have, Mr. Gaffney, you've actually influenced the board, so it almost has to be kind of re-looked at and turned over for the education that was provided at the county level and ethics. So I believe that you were in contact with CMSA in 2013, so that's even less than a 5-year window gap. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Oh, Kathleen Mulcahy in Larkspur.
Anybody else wish to speak? Yes.
My name is Gloria Newmeyer. Years ago, I used to serve on the PAM High School District Board, and in those days, the Brown Act was sacred. Sacred because if you didn't observe it, you got sued. And I don't know what has happened, but if a measure is going to have a tax consequence, it seems to me that's what the Brown Act is all about, that the people should know what on earth you're agreeing to. Thank you.
Hi, Joan Bennett from Kentfield. Naturally, none of us here knows the terms of any potential settlement that is being entertained by you, but I must caution you that if the settlement agreement contains no consideration flowing towards Ross Valley Sanitary District, then I think what you would be doing is making a gift of public funds, and that's prohibited under Article 16 of the California Constitution, so you should bear that in mind. Something such as this, I think, should require the approval of the court up in Sonoma County before Judge Wick, and I would urge anybody in this audience who feels that that's necessary to, in some way, try to intervene in this case and make sure that we're not having a gift of public funds of Ross Valley Sanitary District's assets to CMSA or any of the other defendants. And one other matter that I've mentioned repeatedly regarding this matter is I'm still deeply troubled by the fact that one of the defendants in this lawsuit, as represented by Katie Rice, has been mentioned as a mediator in this, and that is a conflict of interest that never should have been stepped into in the first place. And I think it calls into question any potential settlement that you may have on the table here. And that's why I think we're entitled to know what has happened. I know that you're concerned about waiving the attorney-client privilege. However, if you can convey to the public the offer that's on the table from the defendants, then you would then maintain the attorney-client privilege that you have with your counsel. So that's one way that you can inform the public what's going on here. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you very much. We're now going to adjourn to
I'd like to
closed
speak.
session.
I'd like to speak. I haven't had a chance to speak, if I may. Last week, we voted to separate the bond refinance resolution and the lawsuit settlement. We have before us on item number 9, a proposal to separate the bond refinance resolution and the settlement agreement. That's the direction the board gave. To go into closed session tonight with a settlement agreement and general release that I have had 1.5 days to review is ludicrous. I don't know what the big rush is. We can vote to approve our refinance resolution for the bond. CMSA can refinance the bonds. We can all save money, but we don't have to rush into a settlement agreement tonight. I recently took an ethics class for elected officials in Southern California. I used an example as to, for instance, what if? And I used myself as the person. And the lawyer giving the class said, "You better seek some legal help because I think you're in trouble." I only mentioned my name in that ethics class. This settlement agreement has been negotiated in secret. A secret settlement. And it's a complete capitulation. I have been involved in well over 200 lawsuits. I have been to state appellate courts, the California Supreme Court, federal circuit courts, and the U.S. Supreme Court on numerous cases as a plaintiff and as a defendant. And I have never seen a settlement like this where one side gets everything and the other side gets nothing. I would ask that we not go into the settlement agreement closed session tonight, that we turn this over to the public, give them a look at it, let them digest it, let us really take a close look at it and understand it, and come back next month and look at a settlement agreement. That's the only honest and true way to do this, to handle this. If you watch agendas from local public agencies, they're in closed sessions all the time. Everybody's going into closed session. Possible litigation, potential litigation, lawsuit settlement. There's all kinds of reasons for these closed sessions. Too much of the public's business is taken up behind closed doors, and they don't know what's happening until it's too late. So I would ask our board to say to the public tonight, we've only had this for 1.5 days, and thank you for appearing, and we're not going to go into closed session tonight on it. We're at least going to take some time for ourselves to digest what's in this settlement. I think that's the best way to handle this. Thank you.
Any other board member would like to speak?
Yeah, I have a point of order with our attorneys. I was told today that an email came out with another advice, that the resolution in the packet, which came out on Friday, is now changed. So I'm handed this tonight. I haven't looked at it. I think it is just totally inappropriate to do this kind of behavior and this kind of, we're a public agency. You cannot hand me a new resolution that I'm not clear who did it except maybe the attorney, and I thought Frank and Mary were going to report back. So I don't feel comfortable at all going into closed session with something that's just handed to me as I'm walking through the parking lot and said, "Oh, by the way, did you get the email?" I never got an email. So, and I'm one of these hawks people with emails. So I want to say this is a major discrepancy for this board and this community on how you do business. And I don't want counsel.
You don't need her.
Well, you're going to say it's okay or not?
I'm actually going to say that notification is not related to closed session.
It doesn't matter. It's just the way this communication from attorney to board members to the public is not within the scope of practice. It
Yeah,
is not.
Counselor,
It is
you may
absolutely-
think a day and a half is sufficient to go over 6 pages of a contract. A contract that will forever change what the Ross County Sanitary
Well,
District.
no, wait, you're talking about.
I know, I
a
would so
different
move,
thing.
I would so move that we cancel the closed session tonight. If the motion's in order, I would so move that we not go into closed session, that we cancel it tonight.
I mean, at this point, I'm confused because Pam is talking about an item that's on the public agenda tonight, open session. I believe that's true, Pam, isn't it?
Josh, excuse me.
I mean,
It's item
just to
9.
be clear, it's item 9 and completely open to the public.
I think Frank has an item right now.
Okay, but wait.
And I don't want, and Tom, you need to step up and you know, coordinate being the board chair. Frank made a statement for a motion. If you can't do chair, I'll do chair. But please, let's just
We have
kind
a
of keep
motion.
it.
Do you want to second it, or do we can discuss it
I'll
at the
second.
same time?
Well, you're supposed to open
Okay,
it.
now we can discuss it.
So the reason I made the motion, I see no reason to rush this. I see no reason for this board to be stampeded into voting tonight. And while we're not going to vote publicly, there's going to be a private vote as to whether or not to go forward with this.
You
That's
don't know
all.
that, Frank.
It's pretty
You don't know
simple.
that at all.
It's pretty, then why are we even bother going into this closed session?
Because we want to discuss the impacts of the change in the bond resolution on the legal problem.
That's item number 9, we can do that.
We want to discuss, does the change to the bond resolution have
Excuse
any
me, Mr.
impact on
Gaffney,
the
that
legal
is not
side?
what your agenda item says.
You can't have
We
something
are
that
going
goes on
into
the
the closed
agenda.
session to discuss.
Respectfully,
Okay.
this is board discussing. There's a
We're
motion on
going
the
into
table.
closed
Let's
session
move
to
forward.
discuss litigation, to discuss litigation with Marin County, Central Marin, and the Department of Corrections. And the change to the bond resolution has an impact on that. That's what we're going to discuss.
I have a question, please.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I have a question to the motion, please.
Sure.
Does this not impact our closed session?
It's my understanding, and Mr. Pacone can confirm this, that it doesn't. But it's a separate item, it's an open agenda item, it's an item number 9, and it's not the settlement agreement at issue in the closed session.
So then this won't be discussed in the closed session. It's not on this agenda to be discussed in closed session. It's on the agenda to be discussed in open session, which is totally
Which are we
appropriate.
talking about? Are we talking about the bond reissue, or are we talking about
I'm
the
talking about-
litigation?
I'm talking about the litigation settlement agreement.
Okay, that is in closed session.
Yeah, I made a motion to delay that, to not go into closed session this evening, to give all of us time to really digest this settlement agreement and general release. So-
That does not include number 9 then?
No.
Okay, that's where the confusion is.
So-
That's what.
If I had questions tonight,
Yes,
Frank,
yes.
on this document which has been given to us, I am not allowed to discuss with our attorney those questions.
How about next month? Would that work? How about give it some time? What's the rush? You can privately call your attorney any day of the week on this issue.
Can I make a point of, it's board is, your closed session item this evening is for discussion of the first complete draft that you have been provided. There is no, I don't mean to speak for the board, it is my understanding that there's no intent to take a vote this evening. It was simply an agendized closed session for discussion. If that's not clear, if it's not the board's desire, we can change that, but it was not our expectation from staff or council's perspective that there would be a vote this evening.
That's simply not true. I read Christian's email. I won't make it public, but I'm going to ask our council, what if one of the board members made everything public, all of the documents Christian has been sending us. What would happen if all that was made public?
The emails, the correspondence he's been sending you regarding the closed
Yes,
session item?
yes, he said, because he said tonight, that this, once we look at it, it's gonna go to CMSA for final approval. So, I mean, there's something going on here, and we're acting like, oh, there's nothing going on, we're just gonna sit around and chat about it. I mean, well, when does the public see it?
When you're in closed session with your counsel on this, the board will decide what to do with the information you receive from your counsel. Whether to give certain direction, whether to vote, whether to just discuss. That's a decision that the board makes in closed session.
I'm just asking that we do that next month, that we take care of the bond refi.
And
That's
you've
what-
made a motion on the table.
I did.
I'll second that. And I do want to say that we were sort of locked into making a decision at the last meeting that this was linked, and some of you read the newspaper article about it, that we were locked into a settlement or to move on to a lawsuit because of the bond and how the bond would be rated, et cetera, and having to do over an extended period of time of payments, and it's complicated. That has all been, from what I understand, has been resolved. We are not linked to that vote. And however, whether we, now that we're not linked to that, I'm still not feeling comfortable with the public not knowing what we're doing at all. It is their money, ratepayers' money. It's not my money, it is their money. And we need to listen to what they have to say and allow them to understand what's at stake. So, and I personally feel without that, it is just going to create so much more mistrust in the community. And it seems like there might be other ways to allow some kind of information. But that's where I stand on this. We've been dealing with trust issues for years here, and that was one of the reasons why I came on this board, was to clean it up as best I could. So I'm feeling, there is no rush now for this. We can vote for the bonds tonight, and the other can wait. There is no rush on it. Done.
We have a motion. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to make a brief comment. We have told our attorneys that we want the resolution tonight to include language, if possible, that reduces the effect it may have on the litigation ultimately. It is not that they have been delinked. From a litigation perspective, passing the resolution has the potential to disadvantage us in the litigation. That is just a fact. We can write in what we want to try to stop it, but it is a fact. They will never be delinked. We will try to minimize the implications on the litigation. I think saying we all came here at night to go into closed session and discuss something and then say, no, I'm sorry, we're going to not discuss it, we're going to put it off a month, doesn't make any sense. We came together as a deliberative body tonight. We're all here. So I think to push it down the road for a month, when we are not forced into any decision tonight. We can ask questions, we can look at the document for the first time if we haven't had a chance to look at it before, we can ask council questions, and then we can say, thanks, we'll come back next month. This board has demonstrated that when there's a decision that could possibly be delayed, we're very comfortable delaying it. So I think saying that we're not going to be in closed session tonight is, a waste of an hour of everyone, including the public's time. You don't need.
How would you waste an hour?
Please.
I came tonight with no intention, because in some ways, I agree. This is a new thing. Not being a lawyer, I would like to discuss, not by calling our legal counsel by myself, I would like to discuss as a collaborative body here with our attorney.
In the public.
I was quiet when you were talking. Please let me finish. Thank you. I came here tonight with no intention of a vote. I'm telling you, that is the truth. I came here tonight to learn more about what we, as an elected board, were voted in to do. To discuss with the attorney, what does this mean? It does not mean we don't litigate. It doesn't mean we do this or do that. We're just finding out what is available to us in a closed session where we have to talk to the attorney about open litigation, which I believe by law we are supposed to do. I don't intend to vote on it tonight. Greg said the staff was not intended. I mean, we're not lying. We're not the bad guys. Anyway, enough said. There's no intent on my part to vote, which means that if Mr. Egger and Ms. Miggs don't want to vote tonight, then there's your majority, and that's, but we do need to speak with him. He's here, we're paying him.
I'm of the same opinion. I had no intention of voting on anything tonight, but I have some questions, and I want to ask them with our attorney without spreading that out, what our plans are to the other side. And so that's what we have the closed session for. And I think there are some implications of what's happening with the CMSA bond issue that are going to impact our legal situation. And I want to find out what they are.
Mr. President, we've already spent over $400,000 on this litigation. The board was led to believe it's only been $200,000. Now we get a report, it's been over $400,000 spent already. I don't think one more month is going to make any big difference in the amount of money this agency is spending on this litigation. There's so much at stake.
Isn't that what you just said?
No.
You just said we're not going to vote on it. That's not my intention.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I think you're going to take a roll call. I think the
Yeah,
law
take a roll.
requires a roll call
Yeah,
vote
that's a good
anyway.
idea.
Counselor?
Miggs?
Aye.
Scylla?
No.
Borstein?
No.
Egger?
Aye.
Gaffney?
No.
And look, can we have a clarity on the motion, Frank, just to make sure for the record? Was it to open it up to the public, or was it not? It was not to meet.
There was a motion to continue this item to next month, to not adjourn to a closed session.
Okay.
That was the motion.
Yeah.
Simple.
Well, if you'd said just continue it to the next month with the discussion tonight, I'd have voted for it.
Make the motion.
No, you don't have to. I'm not going to vote for it. Okay. It's not, excuse me, okay, it's time for our closed session. Shouldn't take us more than a half an hour, so we'll meeting will start back.
What are the questions you have particularly you
want to ask your
lawyer?
We're not going to close session.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Borstein? Yes, ma'am. Scylla? Here. Miggs? Here. Egger?
Here.
Gaffney?
Here. Thank you very much. Report on action taken by the board during the closed session. As advertised, there was no reportable action. Approval of the agenda. Are there any items that the board would like to rearrange or pull? Board members?
I just asked a question on C, if I could, rather than pulling it, I just asked a question.
You mean on the consent calendar?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're not at consent yet, are we?
No.
No, we're moving the agenda, okay.
Any comments from the public on the agenda? Immediate time to approve the agenda. Okay,
I move we approve the agenda.
motion to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, open time for public to raise items not on the agenda or for future agendas, and the board can hold no discussion during this time, and we would request about 3 minutes. We'll time that, and you can stand here, and we would appreciate if you give your name and where you're from. Anybody like to make a comment? Yes.
Nancy O'Connor, Sanitary again. I'd like to just encourage the board to have the lawsuit be done in open public session, because the public would like to know what is going on and has great desire to be educated on this matter as well. So please consider that in the future, that kind of transparency so that the public knows what's going on. We had quite a spirited conversation out there with various other people who are involved in the lawsuit, and so we're very anxious and very happy to receive more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? This is your last chance. Yes.
Every state in Mill Valley, I'd just like to reiterate what Nancy said. If before a final vote is taken on the settlement, if the terms of the settlement could be made public and give the public maybe several weeks or to look at it, and then convene a session, I think we'd all appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 7, standing committee report out. We have an HR committee and a finance committee.
Did we talk about the HR committee?
Yes.
The HR, if you and both met, the HR committee met on Monday. We reviewed the progress of our consultant, our RGS consultant. She asked in particular if, and this is Sophia, we would like for her to bring new policy ideas that are coming about based on changes in the California law, and that she and her consulting group is finding amongst all the public entities that they're consulting for, to the committee first, before taking them to the union and then bringing it back before the full board, or whether just go to the union and come to the full board. And we said as the delegates just for this year, not for all years, so it would be 2 different people. As the delegates to the HR subcommittee, that we would want to vet those changes or the potential policies that she's proposing first before they go to the union. This is a procedural point. I would ask if the board members have comments about that. We could certainly discuss it. Yeah, they just went over the progress of RGS, including the appointment of the negotiator. We have to just take it in. Anything else, Michael?
No, I think it was very straightforward this time.
We reviewed the progress report that is included as info item D at the back of the packet.
Any comments from the board?
Yes, I would like to make. And I'd asked that question of the negotiator. I would like to see all negotiations with the management team, the unclassified, but the employees that are not represented by the union. I'd like to see those negotiations in public. I think it's time that public agencies start letting folks know in their communities exactly what's going on, how much the raises are, how much the pension benefits are going to cost. And in this way, the public won't get blindsided and end up, down the road 5 years later finding out we're in a hole millions of dollars because we approved some pretty lucrative contracts and no one knew about it. I understand that the unions, that needs to be negotiated behind closed doors, okay. But the contracts for the, for the balance of the crew, and I think it's about 2/3, 1/3, about 1/3 of the employees ought to take place in open public session. I noticed that on the long-range staffing plan, it says, as noted, November 2014, the workforce disclosed and placed in abeyance pending completion of strategic plan. And I don't know, this board didn't vote to put that in abeyance, but I was wondering how it was put into abeyance, that we weren't going to look at the staffing. Was that?
I can address it.
Sure.
Maybe that wording is a little bit too formal.
It's actually going forward, isn't it?
No. They basically they've recognized that until we went through this at that November meeting, that there are a lot of pretty significant unanswered questions that need further addressing in terms of everything from the operational needs of the district and any potential realignments and what have you that need to be figured out before they can give you any meaningful work on that. And at the same time, the district had not yet undertaken a strategic planning effort, which we just started. So it was just a practical issue that was sort of having the cart before the horse to start talking about long-term staffing levels if you didn't have the foundation of something like a strategic plan to help inform what that would actually be trying to support. So that's really all that's saying. So they're simply saying they've kind of held off further work on that because they can't meaningfully do anything with it until we make further progress on the strategic plan.
And when might that occur?
Strategic plan was started about a month ago, and I think it's anticipated to take about 6 months to wrap that up. So I think you're looking at that time frame, Frank.
2016?
Strategic plan. Yeah. And then from that, you would then be able to inform the discussion about what your long-term staffing levels look like.
We actually talked about looking at staffing levels, it'll be 3 years between the time we decide to look at it and it actually happens. So, somehow we have to get a handle on our overall cost of this operation. So the HR folks, the contract with them is $200,000 this year. Are we going to run over that $200,000, or is the $200,000 going to be sufficient? And number two, at the end of this fiscal year, are we contemplating terminating that contract with the consultant?
Well, the first answer, I think right now we're pretty much on target in terms of the spending rate for the contract. So I would anticipate we're coming in relatively close to what they estimated. And I would say it's up to a future board discussion as to whether or not you want to continue to retain our services.
I've noticed our two committees, they meet, I've seen some of the minutes, maybe they'll meet a half hour or 40 minutes. Is there any way that those meetings could be consolidated into our regular meeting day so that we're not paying all the board members $285 for these committee meetings that last a half hour or 40 minutes? And could that be folded into the same day that the board meets so that we can save us some money here? Well, I just looked at the minutes. There was one meeting, it was like 15 or 18 minutes. One was hour and 20 minutes. One was 37 minutes. And it seems to be, it's expensive bit of a half-hour meeting. And if it could be folded into the same day we're meeting, wouldn't it be just one? We would only pay for one meeting.
Does the board want to address that?
Well, there's a policy, I think, that the board member can charge for each meeting, even though these committees are meeting back to back. So it is an expensive venture to have a meeting for 30 minutes for $285. And the other question that was posed recently was about the finance committee. It seems to have very little going on. Why are we having a standing committee for that? So,
that's a good point, and maybe we should, let's put it on the agenda about committee meetings, because I was going to report on the finance committee. Let's finish up with the HR.
Right, I just wanted to make the point when I said that I thought that the staffing levels had been looked at, the short-term staffing needs, the second paragraph under long-range staffing plan, the short-term, the RGS staff had completed an analysis of the current administrative workloads and staffing needs and are preparing data and recommendations for consideration by the GM and executive team. So in terms of the short-term staffing needs, they have done what I would consider a study. But I'll let you go back to the.
So I think for a future agenda item, we ought to discuss the need for those committee reports. And, maybe not schedule them monthly, but certain times they do need a finance committee meeting and other times. So that's not a bad idea.
We can revisit the policy about where, the way board members are compensated for attending meetings. Maybe have a time threshold or something.
The finance committee met, and our documents are actually included.
Before you move on to finance, I have a question for HR, is that right?
Okay.
I have asked Sophia 2 or 3 meetings. She presented a timeline with her beginning contract and said she would come back. I know she's given us a little bit of a verbal report, but I'm finding that I don't have a clue if she's meeting the grid she gave us on what project she was going to have done by a certain time. So I'm a little concerned that we're going to pay her $200,000 and I'm not sure exactly what we're achieving and how we will get most of those things done. I don't have a clue. So I really think it's appropriate that Sophia come to the meeting. We could actually move it up. Oh, she would be here now. I know you had said, well, why don't I call her? But I would rather have it more transparent and have her here at the meeting. And going back to the strategic planning, I did email Rita, and I believe this month we had actually created a calendar to start the strategic plan, and then it just sort of dropped off the face of the earth. So I don't know what happened. Remember those dates? We were on a roll, and it just went away. So I really hope, being on the board for 4 years, we talked about doing a strategic plan. I'm really hoping that we can move ahead, and it seems like it has this weird gridlock. It keeps going to happen over and over with that.
Okay, anything else on the HR? Well, the finance committee met, and we reviewed all of the interim financial statements for both January and February of this year. And the financial statements are included in consent items A and B. And we're tracking pretty well in our budget. Our capital expenditures are a bit behind our projections, and they should start to peak with some big projects, and that's something that we're very interested in, is doing our capital projects, big replacement projects. We see the Magnolia sewer line that's trying up some traffic out there. But we're going to let a project for 5 miles of sewer repairs, and we've got in the middle then 2 giant pump station repairs, which probably could be in the range of $8 to $10 million. So you'll see that our capital program is really going to step up. And then we also reviewed the legal costs, and that's an ongoing situation with us to review. We get a report on that. We had a spike, $30-something thousand in a month. So something we, as a board, are really concerned about. Any questions on the financials? Any questions from the audience? Okay. So now we're moving on to agenda item 8, the consent calendar. Would anybody like to put anything about the consent calendar?
I would. It's for 8C.
Okay. That's the progress bill. You'd like to pull that off?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay.
So, page 2 of the report, there's a change order for $218,922 $218,926.27. My question is on the description of the change order on line 6. It says changes associated with the revised alignment between Dartmoor Drive and Bonner Road as requested by the city of Larkspur. So I'm curious, how did $218,000 become a change order because of revised alignment? Did the contractor make a mistake? The city, what happened? That's a lot of money. Just to it's revised plans, pretty much what it is, right? So is this all labor time for consultants?
No, this is a construction contract, and the city of Larkspur has permitting authority over most of that, if not all of that construction area. And after construction had started and the contract had been let, there was a request by the city to make this significant realignment and change the costs of the work. That was worked out between our construction management and services SBC team and the contractor, and the additional costs are what you're looking at. So it's all construction activity for that change in alignment. So
Okay. And
there's no consultants.
for a consent item, I'm curious, should it not have been put on as a regular board item?
Progress payments on contract, on construction
Oh,
contracts are
this is
regularly
not,
included as
I
part
get
of the
it,
consent
but
calendar.
the change order.
You know,
Change orders.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay, that's it.
Can I ask something?
I've got a question, before you go to the audience, I'd like to ask a question in the same minute. So on that table 2, what page? On the, it's item 8C, page 2, where it says awarded contract amount $3,293,000. The middle table, on the second page, if you're on your 8C, just the main staff report on 8C. So just grab 8C and turn it over to the next page. 8C. Is that a different? What am I looking at? It's like 8C to me. You don't have 8C.
I don't have what you're saying. There's a staff report?
Oh, I'll be darned. It's a different staff report.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm pointing out, in 8C on page 2, it says board approved contract change orders necessary for this project. And so that's how these change orders usually read. Board approved contract change orders. And it's like we're requiring some change orders here, the board. Shouldn't it say staff recommended change orders rather than board approved? I mean, it's like, is that some kind of a technicality that we're trying to
This is just
meet for
standard,
the law?
it's standard wording, Frank. It's, as far as I know, it's been used for years. Change orders of a certain magnitude, I'm not sure what the cutoff is, Randall, but they're typically brought back to the board.
They're all
Yeah, so you review and
approved it
approve
last
the
month.
change orders, and that's why they're called board.
Understand. Okay, so we have a $5.3 million bid that we're giving to Major Gelati later on this evening. And at that time, I'm going to make a statement that I will never vote for a change order in that contract. I think if the contractor bids a project, then the contractor's gotta meet the bid number. To continually come in and ask for more money, time and time again. You know, I go back to Major Gelati, the one little contract they had up here for $725,000 ended up $1,450,000. It was like almost double. And we were told, well, we have to approve the change orders.
This change order was not because of the contractor or his ability to meet the original contract. It was because the contract changed.
Well, then our management team should have sat down with Larkspur before we awarded that bid to make sure that what we were doing was right. What we were doing was acceptable to Larkspur. I mean, rather than getting into the project, then Larkspur go, wait, what are you folks doing?
My recollection was that it was something underground and that's just part of the business.
What did you say? I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. My recollection from last month, and I'm looking at Randall because I believe he commented to us about this, was that it was something that we truly couldn't have anticipated. It was something that, I mean, please, if the board president pleases, can we hear the engineer again on the point?
Yes, staff did meet with the city of Larkspur's representatives during the design phase, where there were some changes the city was proposing with their own set of construction projects they're doing in the area that have caused some conflict and realignment of various other utilities. One of which is the city of Larkspur's own storm drainage project that they're going to do in the same part in subsequent years. And there's some grade issues, some slope issues out there, which thereby affect the district's design of the sewer pipeline. Therefore, we had to accommodate that request made by the city.
And realignment means we're moving the pipe to be more running along other utilities, is that correct?
Closer to other utilities, further away from other utilities.
So I truly believe it was not anticipatable, but that we had to, it didn't make sense for us. So I don't know that saying we wouldn't approve it makes any sense.
Virtually every public agency lets projects and has anticipation of some change orders. What we worry about is when they're excessive. And that's why they're brought back to the board. We review them and find out if they're reasonable. And, you know, sometimes they are, and sometimes we hate them, you know. But most of our stuff is underground, and we don't know exactly what's down there, especially when we replace it. We could have put our pipe in 50 years ago, and in the meantime, telephone pipes and everything are there, so, you know, we can't be sure about anything. It's something that's a safeguard, and we do
But
have.
I think the lesson is that we could have done a not to exceed.
No,
No,
you guys
because we are
talking-
coming up with a not to exceed.
This is very standard business for construction contracts. They have encountered change conditions in the field. It's a very set process to review and validate those changes and to negotiate the price changes. This is all spelled out in contract documents. Those changes are brought to the board for approval. We explain to you what the change is based on. And if there's any unreasonable basis for it, we have an opportunity to negotiate that. So I just want to stress what you're seeing. Our projects regularly come in when at completion of construction, the few years I've been here, in the 5 to 6% change order range. And for underground utility work on thousands of feet of existing utilities, that's a very, very acceptable number. So I don't think you're seeing excessive change orders. I don't think you're seeing abuse of the contract terms. I think you're seeing very normal, very relatively well carried out business. I'm not sure why there's the surprise about this. So,
No, I'm talking about the process. Just to compare it to item 10, we're doing a not to exceed. Could we have done that on the initial, when we did the contracts? Could we have done
they did capital construction projects with a fixed firm price. And that is the price they're committed to. And there are very specific terms and allowances in the contract and the public contracting code for changes to that cost as the work proceeds. And that is what you're seeing. So there are change orders issued, the price of the work, the final work can change. It is unrealistic to issue a construction contract for thousands of feet of work in the public right-of-way where you haven't excavated yet and expect to have zero change in the work down to the penny. That is very rare, if not unheard of, to have zero change in a capital construction project. So I don't know if that's answering your question, but...
No. I'm comparing it to item 10. We're putting in item 10, not to exceed 5 million, etc. Did we say that in this contract?
Item 10, if you want to go there, is a consideration of a construction contract later on this evening. The way this contract was awarded and was being executed is virtually identical to the way this contract was being awarded and will be executed. So yes, they start out with a firm fixed price, and under certain conditions, they can change.
Okay, that's what I was trying to...
Okay, any more board comments? We've got some. Okay, she was first. Okay, you. I'm sorry.
Valerie with Fairfax. Yeah, I have a couple of questions on this. One is that I think it would be really good to know what other people came in on in terms of bidding. Is this a problem where I see majority? That's what I see all the time. So if we're constantly looking at cost overruns, I would wonder if there might be other contractors who are actually being a little more careful. Maybe they're coming in more, but maybe it was, maybe they are a little closer to what your end game ends up being. So it's, when it continues to be the same person over and over, it almost becomes a no bid contract. And I'd be a little leery of that. Another thing that I'm very interested in knowing is if that change order had anything to do with changing the dimensions of the pipe to perhaps allow more construction, or, I mean, it's just an interesting thing. I'd really like to know that. The change order we were just talking about? What you were talking about? Okay, the $674,000 item, or $623,000 item, it doesn't really say what it was changed for. Just curious.
See, that's not a change order, that's the progress report. The 600,000 is the progress report. The change order approved, I think it was last month, was for...
Yes, month or the month before.
For 200 something thousand, and that was a result of the realignment that we heard about.
What does that mean? Was it a larger pipe? Was it a larger
You had,
pipe?
pardon?
Was it a larger pipe? What did you do?
It was the same diameter.
It was the same diameter pipe, just in a different, in the same general location. The pipeline was just moved 5 or 6 feet over. So if you took a long straight line and slid it over 5 or 6 feet, that's essentially what happened. It's still going to change.
And so the process is that we have a construction management firm with experts in watching the contractor. And the contractor applies for a change order, and then it's, we forced him to change, because of things outside of our control what happened. We forced him to change what he was going to do. And so then there's a negotiation process between them.
Correct. There's a negotiation process that occurs with your staff, with the construction management team, to ensure that the price is fair and to the terms of the contract documents.
So it gets negotiated,
Right.
and that's how they figure it out, and it comes back to the board.
Do you all ever
we do
deny
take
any
bids,
quotes?
by the way. We received, for example, on the project we're going to award tonight, 3 bids. And as you were in July, one of them, they're low, but I notice you'll see when we get in that one, the bids are very close. So it wasn't like they were lowballing, in my opinion.
But they get all the awards?
Those were good points.
Is that what you're saying? But you're saying they always get the awards, or?
No,
Not asking
always.
you, I'm asking.
We've awarded, we awarded a contract not so long ago to another firm. And who did bid on it. They win them though, they might be real efficient. Yes.
Given Larkspur requested the change, if I understand correctly, are they bearing any part of the cost?
Is Larkspur bearing any part of the cost of the change?
That's knowledge.
And they can force us to relocate.
It is their property.
It's their property, so they can force us to relocate.
Wasn't there a USA done before? To locate those?
I'm sure there was, but this wasn't a USA thing. I think they had a project that they wanted to team up with ours according to Renewable.
Then it sounds like they're partially responsible for the change order.
They are, but it's their property, and we're trying to get an easement through their property or whatever. So, for example, when a road relocates, oftentimes they make utilities move something, and the utility runs in there. They have to relocate a sewer, relocate a water line, and the road. If you're crossing our road, you got to do what we tell you. You have to pay for it.
But they should have told you before, during the design phase, but it seems to me that they...
Yes. No, this is just on this item C.
Right.
Okay.
I'm Debbie Roskowitz from Great Red. The question that I have, and maybe I have even this, is how closely in the pre-design, getting ready to do the bid, does the contractor or the committee work with each city or each area they're going to be working in? Because in this particular Marin, there's county, there's city, there's all these areas. So I want to know how closely beforehand you try to avoid these concerns of, oh, this utility is here. And second of all, does that mean you dug a hole first, oops, it's there, I better move it over? Or do you examine it using sonar or looking at the plans previously done? Kind of naive in this, but.
Yeah, please.
During staff met with the staff of the city of Larkspur, starting off in the preliminary design phase, all the way through what we call the 50% design phase, which is drawing plans that are created that are nearly ready to be bid, all the way through the 90% design phase. And so we met almost monthly over the course of the first 6 months of this last calendar year to create these contract documents that ultimately were the bid documents that the construction contractor would bid on. The city had their own project in mind that they were still crafting, and we staff tried to work with the city of Larkspur staff to see where their new project was going to occur in this park zone area. The other options that were available are not feasible in order to correct the localized sewage flow issues that occur in that region. So we chose the alignment that the city seemed to be able to, and bid the project based on that affirmation. Later on, through the actual construction itself, as the construction contractor got closer to that region, the city informed us that there were now issues that would be occurring with our proposed alignment because of the city's project. So we tried to work collaboratively with them to find a solution to keep the project moving forward, not keep the contractor out of their way and assume any field and overhead costs with the contractor not working, and provide an even playing field for the city of Larkspur to be able to use when they do their storm drainage project. And if I could take a moment to step back to the Fairfax residents' comment and question about the bids and the bid process. As a State of California powered public agency, we follow a very specific process under the Public Contract Code when it comes to awarding construction contracts for construction work. It's called the formal bidding procedure, and by law, the district is required to award on the lowest responsive and responsible bidder basis. There's a set of documents that get noticed publicly in the paper of local circulation. We put it at all the builders' exchanges and all the plan rooms. Every contractor, whether it be a mandatory site visit or non-mandatory site visit, is required to pick up a set of plans, the specifications, the contract costs. Everyone's given equal information at the same time. Everyone's given the bid addenda at the same time. And we have a formally notice date when the bids are open. We seal bids like these. And at that point in time, we announce who the current low bidder is based on the dollar figure alone. We are obligated to award to the lowest dollar figure to the lowest responsible bidder. So I just want to answer that question.
Okay, any more comments?
Yeah, in addendum to that question, when you go over and you work so hard with the different communities, do they then sign off on their aspect of your design? In other words, they approve it?
The communities implied that they would approve it.
Implied? So every community you work very hard with to accommodate them imply that that's okay until the actual site is dug up. Is that my understanding, or am I wrong?
We expect it to be memorialized in the encroachment permit given by that agency.
All right. Any other comments? Board members, let's see, we're on item C, 8C, any further discussion? A motion.
I'd like to move the consent calendar.
Second.
This is for the entire consent calendar.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it carries. Thank you. Okay, now item 9 is adopt resolution 1489 regarding issuance of the Central Maine Sanitation Agency refund revenue bonds, series 2015. Staff?
I'll just do a very brief overview, since you covered this topic pretty extensively at a special meeting on Monday last week. So what you're considering is the resolution authorizing Ross Valley Sanitary District's participation in the CMSA bond issuance, the refinancing, as we are also referring to it as. And what this is doing is providing for a new bond sale that will basically retire the existing debt. The purpose being that there is substantially lower interest rates in the market right now, and by refinancing the current debt, the member agencies are looking at an annual debt service savings of approximately $600,000 per year. The process is largely nearing completion at this point, with this being one of the key remaining steps. And the issue that has been of concern to the board and was again discussed at the prior special meeting was the language that we referred to generally as Section 5. And there was extensive discussion at the last meeting about basically removing the old language on Section 5 and then directing two of the board members to work with legal counsel and bond counsel to see if we could arrive at language that was more amenable to all the parties. That process has taken place, and what you have is an updated bond amendment, bond resolution. And the only change to that resolution is Section 5. And I believe, so for the public's knowledge, understanding what went out in the public package, the language that was being crafted was not available yet on Friday afternoon, so the only thing missing was the updated Section 5 language. And the board has been provided with an updated resolution that has the new Section 5 language. Again, that's what's been derived or developed between participating board members and legal counsel. So that is what you're acting on this evening. We have a number of copies, probably not enough for everybody in the room, but if people are interested in this, I will hand this out to you. Thanks, Dan. Again, the only change is Section 5 on page 2. So with that, I'll hand it back to the board.
Okay, so any questions of the board?
Perhaps a quick explanation. At the last meeting, the board voted to set up kind of an ad hoc committee. You can call it an ad hoc committee. Barry and myself, we could communicate with Tom Morrell and Christopher Cohen from the River Cohen Law Firm over a way to decouple the refinance bond from the litigation. And today we did get this new resolution emailed to us. And I guess everybody printed it out. So that's the result of Mary and myself and our two attorneys getting together by conference call on Friday. And Mary and I did discuss with them some alternatives, and they did agree that they could rewrite this Section 5, decouple litigation and refinance, and allow us to go forward and approve the bond refinance that allows CMSA then to turn around. They would get on the process tomorrow. They've already approved their end of it. If we approve this tonight, tomorrow CMSA will trigger the bond sale. Maybe if I just read Section 5 quickly. Relation to CMSA litigation. This resolution is being adopted solely and exclusively to permit the issuance by CMSA of the refunding bonds in order to allow for interest expense savings to CMSA and indirectly to the district. That's us. The approval of the refunding bonds, the OS information, and any other statements contained or implied in this resolution, including matters described in the payment agreement and/or official statement referenced above, are not intended and shall not constitute an omission or work an estoppel or serve as an acceptance or abandonment or otherwise affect or relate to pending litigation in Superior Court, County of Sonoma, case number SCV 252383, and entitled Sanitary District Number 1 of Marin County v. Central Marin Sanitation Agency et al. The material allegations of which by the district are each reaffirmed and restated in their entirety by this reference as if fully set forth herein. So what we've tried to do is to, and this has been run by bond counsel who's here this evening, to make sure that it's acceptable to bond counsel, want it acceptable to CMS, and I believe everyone has taken a look at it, I think.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
Well, I would correct that because I see Jason Dow, General Manager of CMSA, they have not taken a look at this language necessarily, have they?
Yeah, he gave me his copy.
Okay.
Looks fine to me.
Okay. I mean, I guess I just wanted to, I wanted to make sure we weren't implying that they would be legally bound by this going forward, because as I've said repeatedly, but we are intending this to say that the agreeing to this bond reissue that would not disadvantage us in ongoing litigation, but our attorneys have advised us, you know, of the fact that there's a potential that that could happen. This information would be used against us in the litigation.
Yeah, everything we do is risky.
Okay.
Yes, I think we need to be careful where we're going, because this is close session information.
Well, we came out from our last conversation.
Perhaps we can hear from bond counsel who's here this evening. I mean,
Wait, I would like to go to the public right now, and then we can, any comments from the public? Yes.
I had a question which was regarding the OS statement or the TOS statement. In it, you didn't have any reference to the income from San Quentin. That was never referenced in the previous document. And I see that in the document that's in the packet back there, it's not also. So basically, San Quentin does not exist. And so I'm just wondering if that is really the way that this TOS should, or OS should go in with the bond that's being offered to investors. So they don't know. So an investor wouldn't see that as a potential income. It sees Skylark and all the other, San Anselmo Shopping Center. They see all that income coming in, but they don't see that San Quentin was the top 1.1 million previously. So
Can I respond to that? Yes, Sean Tierney is the bond counsel for CMS.
Yeah, I mean, we're the attorneys, bond attorneys, so we participated in drafting the disclosure. And we're pretty careful to lay out the revenue that's collected from San Quentin. It is in there.
I think you're referring to the top 10 taxpayers in the Ross Valley Sanitary District. I think that's the table you're referring to?
it's a table, and at the top is Skylark.
Yeah, the
So
last 2 years, I mean, it's a customer of CMSA, so it's in the financials on this.
So we haven't gotten any revenue from,
In the last 2 years, because the whole point is that that's under litigation right now, so that could be added back in.
No, that's why we have to disclose it and disclose the litigation.
but the revenue is disclosed in the official statement. It comes through CMSA.
Yeah, so the investors would know that's what's being contested.
so if I may,
Well, wait, it's to the public.
well, I was going to respond to her question.
Okay.
What we've discussed this at CMSA, and yes, if you go through all the papers, it does show up as an income to CMSA, San Quentin State Prison. But we talked about it that if you look at it historically, CMSA has had an income from San Quentin State Prison. Either it came through Ross Valley to CMSA, and now it's going from San Quentin straight into CMSA. About the same amount. So it's not whether San Quentin ends up having its wastewater collected by Ross Valley or CMSA, it's not going to affect the overall picture as far as revenue. The revenue stream is going to be pretty constant. It may come through Ross Valley instead of directly to CMSA, but the revenue's there to repay the bonds.
So you're saying that an investor would see that the revenue is coming in?
It would show up coming in now directly from California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation to CMSA. If they did some research, they could see at one time it came, 2 years ago, it came from Ross Valley. But the fact is, the revenue that CMSA is getting, and the bondholders or buyers, purchasers are going to see, is that the revenue is not going to be affected by the outcome of the litigation. like a, no change, no neutral is that. Is that pretty close, Sean?
Yeah, no, I think that it's fully disclosed. I don't know if it's 100% neutral, but I don't think it's material. And, it's a good question, but it's disclosed.
Any further questions from the public? Yes.
Yes, Sean and I talked a little bit about this, but in section 2, where it says that the board affirms the payment agreement remains in effect as to the series 2006 bonds and refunding bonds. If the revenue stream changes, how can the payment agreement remain the same? And it seems like section 5 kind of refers back to that because it says, okay, so the payment agreement and the OS may change. But 2 says we affirm that they're the same, but they can't be the same if they're going to change.
The payment agreement is currently effective. I think there's been discussion of making changes to it, but I think that would follow your determination of what to do. I mean, it would probably follow the lawsuit being resolved. And so I think in my view, those are clarifications. The payment agreement is very broad, so I think that's how I answer it.
Is that clear enough?
I think it really refers back to the fact that, kind of what Frank was saying, if we sell the bonds, San Quentin is going to make its share of debt service payments, either directly to CMSA or through us, and the same amount goes to CMSA to pay the bonds. So far, they've told us that they're not changing the payment agreement as it existed when the 2006 bonds were sold. Is that correct?
Yeah, we
That's
can
what-
do
that's
that
what
with
we
your
know.
signature. So,
And it would only be changing if CIP and you created more money to take out.
well,
We
it
would
would
hope
only
that.
change if you all decide to change it. So that was a suggestion of Greg, that changes might be considered in the future. But it's a very broad agreement. And the goal is just to make sure the bonds get paid, which they have been and will be. So I don't see any issue with that.
In other words, the bonds are being paid off now, and when we refund this, we're going to continue to pay them off, but it's going to be about $600,000 less for the whole CMSA region. So it's, at least that's the estimate now, about $600,000, of which our share is slightly over $300,000. It's per year for 17 years. That's what I've heard. So, really an important thing to do. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, back to the board. Board members, any more comments? I have a couple.
I was going to make a motion, but I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
There's an underline on the resolution, so section 5 there needs to be an underline. And in the body of the, Jason, we gave you those corrections last time.
That's correct.
They're not showing up here, but you've got them in the official statement. The document I have doesn't
They
show.
were forwarded to financial advisor and bond counsel.
Yeah, I think we thought we'd already made those changes.
Oh, okay.
That you gave us. I think you might have seen an earlier draft.
Okay.
When you
And
did
it
those
was
corrections.
nothing material, it was
Yeah.
important,
We didn't
but it
look
was
at them.
numbers, and we just
Yeah.
corrected some
Yeah.
gaps.
We'll triple check it tomorrow.
Okay.
We did look at your agreement.
So, a motion?
I would so move approval.
Yeah.
Is there more to say? I don't want to interrupt. I would so move approval of resolution number 1489, a resolution of the Board of the Directors of the Sanitary District Number 1 of Marin County regarding the issuance of
the Central Marin Sanitation Agency refunding revenue bonds Series 2015 in order to refinance its revenue bonds Series 2006 and authorizing certain related matters.
Okay, I have a question for the Law Council. Do we think that this Section 5 protects us?
You asking?
I'm not buying that. No, I never knew. Does this? Well, I have a question. We can still have a discussion.
That would be attorney.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Okay,
That's
any
closed
more
session
discussion?
That is a closed session discussion, which I have addressed, so.
It's a risky business.
It's a resolution to roll call, right?
Forsy?
Aye.
Scylla?
Aye.
Mays?
Aye.
Egger?
Aye.
Gaffney?
All right. Okay, thank you. Are you going to really sell tomorrow? What's the sales schedule?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Item 10.
Chairman Gaffney, can I write some point of information? Can I write some point of information?
Okay. On
We
which
have an
one?
agenda here, and I was trying to follow it here, and it looks like you might have skipped 4C. Did you skip 4C? Or?
No, we didn't. We approved them all.
I missed that. I was trying to follow, and I didn't see what 4C was. Was there a statement made of some sort?
Yeah. Well, we had a long discussion on it, about why.
You had a long discussion?
4C.
There was no action.
Oh, okay. Item 4C, no reportable action. No reportable action.
No reportable action. I didn't hear that.
I
Thank
was thinking you were talking about.
you.
Okay, item 10, consideration of awarding contract and authorizing general manager to execute construction contract for fiscal year 2014-15 pipeline rehab project with Majoria and Gelati, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $5,287,387. Yes.
Okay, we'll watch it briefly from the staff report. So what you have in front of you is the consideration of awarding public construction contract. So design has already been obviously completed. And so what this is the first, it is approximately 5 miles of gravity sewer rehabilitation work. And the locations are shown in the attachment maps. And they are, these are locations that were prioritized following the district's relatively new process for prioritizing and identifying the high-risk areas. So this is a result of all of the work that you've seen in the infrastructure asset management plan and the utilization of a risk model to identify the areas that we're going to focus on each fiscal year for each 5 miles. So it does represent the first major construction contract that's going out as a result of that new process, which I think is somewhat notable in terms of the change in the district's, the changing direction of the district's capital program and the methodology that we're following. So with that kind of background, what this involves is, again, approximately 5 miles, mostly small 6 to 12 inch diameter gravity sewer work. As we are adopting a new approach that always utilizes typically a mix of construction methods. We're not any one side or any kind of one size fits all. So this one has about 50% of the work as CITP trenchless work, about 10% pipe bursting, and about 34% open cut. And also a notable change on this work relative to most of our past work is we're doing a significant amount of lower lateral work. So the reaches of pipe rehab where we are open cutting for pipe bursting. So in this case, that is close to almost 45% of the mileage. The lower laterals will be replaced by the contractor at basically a very competitive rate for getting full work. And that's about 2,500 feet of lower laterals that will be replaced under this contract as well. So without going through the details, I think we've already kind of ended up in earlier exchanges talking about the bidding process somewhat. So if there's any more questions, we can address those during the subsequent discussion, but that's what you're considering is the award of the contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And we have district staff and our construction management, or pardon me, our design services consultant here as well. So with that, I'll hand it back to the board.
Any comments from the
Yes.
Well, I have some interesting questions. Sure. I don't know who can answer. I'm looking at the bid documents here, and I went over them fairly carefully. And right on the front page, the first page.
Where are you, Frank?
On the big,
In the back?
on the big set. What size is this? This is 11 by 17, or 11 by 17. So the question I have, and it's on that first page. If you come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, trenching, sheeting, shoring, and bracing. And if you look at what each company bid, Major Gelati bid $10,000 for that part of the project. KJ Woods bid $800,000 for that same piece of the project. Ranger Pipelines bid $100,000 for that same piece of the project. If KJ Woods would have bid like $100,000 for that piece of the project, they'd have been by far the low bidder. How did they end up bidding $800,000 for something that Major Gelati bid $10,000 for? And then when you go through the rest of the bids, Major Gelati's higher on a lot of them. So somehow this bid was skewed by what KJ Woods bid on that first page. What's the rationale for that?
So, if I might, I'm Vern Phillips. It's my design team that put.
You're with Harris?
I'm with Harrison Associates, and this is not surprising, Director Ayers. In fact, it's very difficult for the engineer to try to understand how contractors bid their projects, okay? Every contractor will have some reason that they will bid at a certain level. If they've got equipment that the other guys don't have and he can bid something low, he will. If he has a cement plant that can provide concrete much cheaper, he'll bid that low and the other guys will bid high.
Sure has no.
Well, all I'm saying is, obviously here he put, and by law we have to have a line item for trench sheeting and shoring.
Okay.
They have to absolutely protect their workers, and so they have to establish a number there. But they could well, and in this case they've put this throughout their bid on all of the open cut work that they've got. So those numbers are probably higher when they have an open cut number than the other guys. But we have to be very aware of an unbalanced bid where a contractor is playing games so that he can be paid up front for some things that he wants to get paid for his mobilization of things. So he might unbalance his bid so that would be a big item that he could get paid sooner for, and that the later items might be a lower cost, but that'll be paid later in the contract. So there's a lot of games that contractors can play, but I don't see that necessarily here. They haven't unbalanced their bid to where they're trying to take care of their cash flow, basically. Here, they put their number for trench sheeting and shoring in their other bid items.
But we put limits on a lot of these items. We say whatever.
Well, mobilization, they can't go more than 5%.
8%.
See, there's another number that they would really load up because they want to get paid for mobilization early, and then they've got some cash for their to fund the rest of the project, basically there. So that's why we put a limit on 5%, or 5% for traffic control as well. That number could be all over the map as well.
There was no limit on trench on trench sheeting, shoring, and bracing.
I don't think we can legally, because they have to keep their workers safe. I mean, that's a statute that all public contracts have to have sheeting and shoring.
Of course they do. I just can't understand, 10,000 for one company.
Well, we can't limit it. Yeah, no, I agree, and there are other bid items in here too that are where or why are they so low and the other guy's so high? But I tell you, it keeps me up at night trying to figure out what we tell you guys, the way the bids are gonna come in, because you have a budget, and if we go over that budget, then what do? We don't have enough money to pay for the project sometimes. So that's a bad thing. So we really look at our past, the bidding climate in the past, we look at what we got numbers for last year, other projects that are going on in Marin County, public agencies that have awarded contracts. We look at all these numbers and then we try and guess the average cost from that all of the bidders might come up with. So if you take the low and the high, or all of them, and you average them out, our number, the engineer's number, should be there. And that's what we try to do. Because at the end of the day, it's the total amount for this project. I mean, if we were to lump sum all of this work, and there's over 100 bid items in this package, and say, just give us a number for that work. And a lot of projects are done that way, by the way, but I would suggest that.
This is the only one with so skew. I mean,
It can happen though, it can happen. And what's good is, and I feel really good about this actually, that we've got $1.5 million that we thought we were gonna be spending on this project that we can now do for other work. And we think, you know, of course, you can't control change orders for unknown conditions that you don't know about, so we may be using up some of the contingency there as well. But we put a contingency on our number because we're in Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, and that's going to be a tough site. We're in windy streets with limited access, and you hope that the contractor is going to see the construction the same way as we do, but you don't know. And so we have a contingency on our number, and in this case, the contractors came in at our engineer's estimate without a contingency. So that's really the difference between what we had in our board report there earlier last month was a number that had a contingency so that we would be protected if these numbers came in high, and it would still meet the budget.
What was the estimate last time? I was kind of hoping, I looked all over for it.
Well, it was a 90% estimate that was at the board meeting there.
It was 6.85.
It was what?
6.8 million. That's estimate at the time.
Right, and that included a 20% contingency at the 90% stage. Since that time, there were 2 sites that were dropped. So there was some money that was saved just because those projects are going to be done later. One of them was in Larkspur, and there was some.
So that's why it was under the big number of 6.8, one of the reasons.
Yes, one of the reasons. But factoring that into the equation, the numbers came in really close to our engineer's estimate.
So there's the unspoken word in the industry that as soon as a contractor gets a large bid, that they put a hotshot project manager on it, and they jack the change orders.
Well, you know, I don't know.
I've spoken to contractors from here to up to Eureka.
Yeah.
And
well, let's. I mean, it's a public bidding process. We have to take the low bidder. In the private world, you take it. You look at his price, but you look at his quality as well, and then you can factor that all in and make an educated decision. We don't have that flexibility.
Who's going to be monitoring the change orders on this one?
A good construction manager.
Do we have one yet?
We do not.
We're still out for
Right.
that. Yeah.
The board will be brought item next month for consideration of award construction management contract.
Did you take bids for that?
We're in the process of getting ready to go seek those, so we, our expectation is to have it ready at this next meeting. We normally, well, in the one past project we've done so far, the two gravity sewer line projects, we've had construction management essentially bundled with design. And so when we've awarded the design contract, we've had all of that under one large contract. And on this one, we purposely decided to separate those out and have design and what we call SDC, services during construction, covered in one contract, but have construction management and inspection separately contracted.
And what's the estimated cost for the project management for this one?
I think it's on the last paragraph of the staff report. I think we have 1.3 million for construction management.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and related engineering
Yeah,
services.
1.36?
Yeah.
Okay, so are we actually bidding that 1.36 million?
No, it's not, that will be a professional services contract, so it won't be following the low bid. Similar to how we do design contracts and other professional services, those are contracted under a different area of state contracting code, so we don't do low bid on the professional services.
You did RFPs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you say you're going on qualifications, and then
Yeah.
you look at the bid.
Right.
To
We
make sure
first
that-
consider qualifications, and then we consider price. So that's typically how we're doing design services and general professional services.
Are we putting this out to a number of people? Who's going to know that we're looking for a $1.3 million project manager?
We're going to issue an RFP.
To go all these people.
And again, normally we would bundle these in one big step, and we didn't do that this time around. That's sort of a project delivery approach option that the district has, and in the future, if we want to go back to, a more consolidated contract that has design and SDC and CM, we can do that. We received some, slight criticisms, and there are different schools of thought on whether or not you want to include construction management with your design and SDC contract. Some parties would argue you want a separate party doing the construction management and inspection. So
I saw that bid too, the big difference in trenching. I was thinking that KJ Woods put the trenching, and that included trenching for all the projects. And then they didn't include it when you go to a local area, they didn't put it in. Whereas like July spread it to all the local projects. That's what I was thinking happened on that one. But I noticed there's a lot of items. There are big swings in some of these. Even in something like 100 feet of height, there could be a big swing. 50,000 versus 4,000. Whoa, copy that. Anyway.
And I noticed the ones where they're using a subcontractor, they all have very similar numbers. So on the cured in place pipe, they all got numbers from maybe the same subcontractor. And they played it straight in this case where the numbers were very similar. But some contractors will take that number and bump it up because they want more profit or for whatever reason. But they're all looking at the bottom line, I think. Ultimately, they want to make, they feel this project's going to be a certain amount. And
let's take it out to, do you have any questions?
I do. One of the qualifications for the general manager, does that include not being associated with the contractor or the designer, but being independent of them?
The construction manager? Yes. That
General
makes them
manager.
independent of the design.
construction manager.
Construction manager, I'm sorry. That would be, so they'd be total, they've not had a history of working for them, they've not been associated with them in a business sense, so there's complete independence of that manager to run the project well?
Yes.
They're independent.
Yes.
They may have worked together before on other projects. You get the really good ones, and they work on a lot of projects, so.
With the,
But they're still, they're independent.
as an employee, but as an independent?
No, they were independent of each other.
It's very important for them to be able to make decisions on their
Absolutely.
own.
Their job is to protect the district.
That's the theory, right.
Okay, bring it back to the board. Any more comments?
I have a question about the pipe bursting. I heard 10%, and pipe bursting is a very cost-saving way. So I'm wondering why the pipe bursting is so low. Is there any opportunity to increase the pipe bursting so you could decrease the costs?
Well, the construction methods are selected in each reach based on the site-specific conditions, and you can't pipe burst. There are specific areas that are conditions that are capable for pipe bursting, and others are not. So yeah, they're largely dictated by consideration of the site conditions. It's not actually always the lowest cost. In fact, I think generally we generally see the cure-in-place CIPP method is the lowest per linear foot of pipe in terms of the finished product. So it's we purposely, I guess, which maybe try to address your question, we definitely try to let the facts dictate and the site conditions dictate reach by reach what construction method to use. Yeah.
But just checking.
Yeah.
And then this site is one of the priority sites that is really that, and that I'm assuming that that was part of the criteria.
Yes,
On this site.
yes. These are, all of these pipe breaches that you're seeing have been, every one of these sites has been run through the risk model and relative to the totality of their 200 miles of pipe. And these are the sites that we sort of say flash the brightest red. They're the ones that we consider the highest priority.
Okay, and 2017, when will it actually be completed? If everything is perfect.
The construction work
Yeah.
of this particular 5
Is
miles?
it 16? No, it's gotta be 17, right?
Since there are so many different areas in these entire set of project sites, some of which are nearby schools, we met with the Safe Routes to Schools committees, and so we have put into the contract documents the schools' summer recesses, and we promised the schools we're only going to work by the school properties in the summer school and sort of break our end process. So those project sites will be done first, slated around, I think, September or maybe August of this calendar year. And the rest of the project sites will be performed on the contractor's schedule such that they should be done with all of the actual pipeline work by approximately the end of January 2016. And the punch list items, final restoration, some pavement cleanup, some trimming of trees, cleaning up the sidewalks, that should be done sometime in the February or March 2016 timeframe.
Yeah, I saw the contract. It goes out to 2017.
My
Well,
comment.
it expires, expired date of the contract. Or am I looking at the wrong thing? Oh, I'm looking at the first page of the license. Wait a minute. Business information.
Oh, that's
issue
the
date.
contract
License.
license stuff, yeah.
All right, so it'll be done before their license expires.
Do we think this is going to generate a lot of, we're putting in lower laterals. And is this going to generate a lot of lateral grants for people that want to, I mean, don't you, I think it might.
It may, and it also may generate interest in the loan program as well, and possibly more of the loan, we hope, because we intend to do targeted outreach to these areas, which is similar to what we have been doing in the last recent projects, so that people know that, for example, the pavement's going to be disturbed, the contractor's going to be already out there, they have an opportunity to get their work done, potentially for a lower cost, or just drive awareness, because they know that their lower lateral is being replaced. And so if we're hitting them with some effective outreach at the same time, they go get a CCTV inspection for $100 or $200, they may say, oh, okay, why don't I just get this done? I get the lower lateral taken care of right now, I've done a CCTV, it looks like the lateral needs work. So these, as you guys are aware, we have multiple triggers now for lateral replacements. Some are mandatory in a sense, driven by the ordinance requirements, but many are voluntary. That's still where the grants are intended to incentivize. So we are doing targeted outreach to these areas, Tom, to try and drive lateral traffic, lateral replacement traffic, I should say.
If we are under budget for the project, to the tune of 1 point whatever estimated, if as we're going through this, more people are requesting grants or loans, can we use any of that difference to fund those programs as part of this capital improvement program?
The district will definitely have an opportunity to consider how much funding you want to put to the grant program as part of the new fiscal year. So certainly, anytime we have a major capital project come in lower than is in the long-term plan, it theoretically frees up monies for other activities. But it's, when you're looking out longer range, like 3 to 5 years, it's less certain what those trade-offs are. Just so, for example, the board heard a report just the other month that identified at a planning level approximately $14 million in new work that we don't have in the 5-year to 7-year forecast. That's the large diameter condition assessment study. So we, of course, love to see projects come in lower than forecasted, but it's not as simple as saying, okay, now we have $1 million to go utilize for something else. We still have to kind of look at the whole picture. But you're going to be considering that question as part of the new fiscal year budget, meaning how much resources do we want to allocate to the grant and the loan program. So you'll have an opportunity to do that. And this certainly, I think what is really going to drive that is the greater public awareness, and the ordinance triggers are going to be pushing that activity. So there's no question we've seen a huge uptick. And I know we're a little bit off topic, but we're within probably about $150,000 of having expended the how much it's close to $900,000 of grants that we allocated this fiscal year. So they're burning through them pretty quick. After you added the extra 450, we'll certainly be done with them before the end of the fiscal year. So the loan program has funds available, but the grant program monies for this fiscal year are likely to be tapped out in the next roughly 2 calendar months.
Has anyone taken out the loan?
We've actually had, I think, and it's brand new, and of course people rather have the grant if they can qualify, but I think so far we've already had 2 applicants. So it's not a stampede, but it's a start.
Okay, a motion?
A motion, we award the contract for the construction of the fiscal year 2014-15 pipeline rehabilitation project to Majoria Gelati Inc. in the amount not to exceed $5,387,387, and authorize the general manager to execute the contract.
I'll second that.
Any further discussions?
I circled the not to exceed.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No? No, okay. Thank you. Item 11, discussion and direction on proposed customer survey from the Ad hoc Outreach and Education Committee. Staff?
I'll just do a quick update on the staff report and hand it back. So this is a consideration that has come out of the work of the Ad hoc Outreach Committee. And what we identified through those discussions is the potential value of actually doing essentially a formal professional community survey that reaches out to the public and to our customer base, and essentially it's an effort to try to understand and get direct feedback on a range of questions that we can then use to hopefully better tailor our ongoing outreach efforts in the future. So this is not something that's done every day, but it's also becoming more and more common in the utility industry, because there's a recognition that you certainly can never take the community and your customer base's support and understanding of the district's business and what it's doing and why it's doing it, taking that for granted is a widely recognized as a very bad practice. So we sort of put this in the context of the 10 attributes of effectively managed utilities, which you guys have seen references to in the past. And it's very important that that's a nationally recognized framework, for just basic gauging of are you running an effective public utility. And that is one of the 10 attributes. Do you have effective stakeholder understanding and support for what you're providing as a utility? And if the only time your utility is hearing, your public is hearing from you is when you're doing a rate increase or you've had a pipe blow up and you're in the newspaper, that's really not where you want to be. You want to have an active and ongoing exchange of information both ways with the community. So that's really what this is intended to support. We haven't detailed this out yet. It's really just a discussion and direction item for the board this evening. We would, if the board did decide to go forward with that, the staff would bring back a more detailed plan and costs and so forth. We think there's most likely adequate funding for this in the remaining funds for the public outreach budget. And by the time we get the work underway at this point, it's likely we'll be rolling into the new fiscal year, so we can always budget for the activity at that point. And there's a list of there's a bullet list of kind of just types of questions that this would be intended to answer, and it's just a conceptual list at this point. But it's, again, what are the topics of interest, what are the preferred methods of communication. A lot of people don't get all their information the way they used to anymore. As you know, we have any engaged citizen these days has 3 or 4 or 10 alternatives as to how they get information on things and participate in public discourse. And then who would provide it? Our thinking at the moment is it's most likely either a sort of a professional public outreach firm, meaning a private company, but there are also a couple of university-affiliated public policy, forums that could potentially do this work for us. I think there's one that we've talked about in the past. It's affiliated with, I think, Cal State Long Beach, or one of the Cal States. So those are the types of details we'd figure out down the road, but we just wanted to get the board's input this evening on your thoughts on doing the community survey. It would be the first time, let's be clear, to be clear, this would be the first sort of baseline survey that Roxbury Sanitary District has done. So that's kind of it from staff. I'll hand it back to the board.
Board members, any comments?
It's a good start.
Who's the ad hoc committee? It was you and
yeah, we discussed this as a good start to begin to find out where we ought to go, and as Greg said, it's best practice in many wastewater facility conveyance and collection like us to really get an idea where we're at with the constituents. What do they understand? What don't they understand? What kind of public awareness programs do we need to get for them so that hopefully they'll participate more?
Is there an example of one of these in some of the best practices world? What kind of questions they ask?
There are. They tend to be, the ones I have located tend to be somewhat topic focused. For example, if they're getting ready to do rate adjustments, yeah.
Oh, the mosquito district, how about that one? $400,000.
So that there are a handful out there, Mary. They're not super common, that I could find, but they are becoming, the concept is becoming more widely accepted. It's just a good way to talk about it. So we would go and get guidance and do some outreach to other utility organizations and see what lessons they've learned, what works.
I'm curious, we were sending out an email newsletter. Do we know how many people we have on that email list? Like, is it something we can send out by email?
Well, that's good.
Would that be self-selecting?
We sort of stopped that for a while.
It sure did, February.
Yeah, and it was, I think we had a couple hundred on the distribution list, but we have 15,000 plus property
In
owners.
comparison to our constituency, it's a very small list.
I mean, to Frank's point, I need to mail something out to everybody, because I don't think we have very good updates. And so I just want,
I think these agencies are so professional, and they do this for their livelihood. They will be able to target how many people we need to send them out to, or if we need to send them out all, etc. I think MMWD I got a survey online from them. I haven't done it yet, but I don't think it's going to be that much, Frank.
No,
And I'm on the
that was also
committee,
a
so
tax,
don't worry.
it was a tax maker too. It's
Oh,
combined.
okay. So I think it's a good start to open it up with the community, to let them know we want their input rather than a negative kind of arena where they come in when things aren't going so well.
I agree, and I'm actually thinking that it could be linked to the previous, agenda item, because all that work is near and dear to my heart, because those are streets I walk my daughter to school on every day. And when you said August or September, I went, the school starts in mid-August. But anyways, as I think about doing community outreach about that, telling my neighbors, these streets are going to get torn up over the summer, just FYI. I think that engaging, that maybe could be related to this as a way to do public outreach that says, this is what we're doing, and this is when it's coming, so it isn't like you walk out your door one morning and your street's all torn up right in front of you.
Does the public have any comments?
Yeah, I have two, if I may. I never was in favor of those glossy pipelines. I just thought that looked so expensive and a waste. But I did enjoy reading the information that was in them. And I believe the last one that's available is February of 2014, right?
Yes.
And so there's been nothing since then. Now, the website is pretty good. I mean, it's easily accessible. You can punch it in and you get there. What you don't find is how to search, because the little search button is way down on the right. So I would suggest just move the search button up and maybe put something resembling a pipeline back in, because they were visually very appealing. I mean, the pictures are interesting to people. They look at their neighborhood up there on the screen and they say, oh yeah, look at that, that's what those trucks are doing. And it sells. It's so simple. And you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on fancy nails. But I miss it. I really do miss it.
Well, we had done, we had started to produce those in-house. That was the last.
Well, you did a
I think we
good
did
job.
about 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, they were just, they were staff produced, very basic. They weren't the older versions. And we just distributed them by email and onto the website. And it was, I think they generally were well received by the public. I mean, we did get some positive feedback. So some of the stuff doesn't have to be overly complicated or expensive. We haven't, for example, the staff person who helped write those has kind of gotten buried in the huge increase in the lateral program activity. So we just have had a pause in our public outreach, as you guys know. And this is just one aspect of the outreach, getting back on track. Is the ad hoc committee has talked about, we know we'd like to do more with the website. We'd like to have a more steady outreach to the community. So.
And just another comment on relating it to the work that's being done. I had one person say to me, I think they're doing something where they're, basically he's describing CIPP work. Mm-hmm. And he said, I stopped and talked to him about it. It's so fantastic. I got very excited in a positive way about the work being done in Larkspur. And then people who I swim with who drive up and down this street all the time saying, we just see all that great work being done. And I think, wow, they're not mad about the streets being torn up. So anyway, building on that PR possibility.
One more comment, if I could.
Yes.
You might start out with the paper, help us sort of fancy paper, but start out with the print. And in it, maybe the first 2 issues or something have an option to opt out of the paper part for those who would prefer to be it online. But then there are a lot of population around here that don't do things online, or they can't see it online. So you might give them the option, the ones that have checklists, and they just put it in their bill, or they, send it in, or go online themselves and just check off not having the paper anymore.
Well, maybe we just give direction to staff to explore this some more.
That's my guy.
Oh, sir, sorry.
Sorry, I won't sit in the back row anymore. I have a question along this lines. There was a big movement quite a number of years ago now for total quality management in the private sector, of which that evolved into the Malcolm Baldrige Awards, which were on a national scale. Does such a Malcolm Baldrige Award or the equivalent thing exist for public sector utilities? And there was also the ISO ratings. Does such a thing exist, again, for public sector?
CASA has a public, what do they call it? Public Information Award. CASA, California Association of Sanitation Agencies. I mean, it's a big deal in our industry, and maybe there's a...
CSDA has the District of Distinction,
CSDA.
I think. District of Distinction.
But those, I mean, I hate to say that those are small scale, because I don't know anything about them. But the ISO is a national ranking, has standards that you have to meet in order to get your rating. Similarly with the Malcolm Baldrige Award, I mean, it was a national competition, and that is something that I think would go a lot further to convincing the rate-paying public that they're getting a good deal for the dollars that are spent than investing in additional public outreach of a self-serving nature by publishing. Not that that's not a good thing to do, but in terms of if I had a limited number of funds, I'd be in there where someone, in competition, where someone who is not, someone who is independent of me is saying, these are the standards you have to meet.
Yeah.
And then meeting them.
I'm not aware of any. The only ones I'm aware of are pretty much what I would call industry-affiliated organizational awards, some of which have already been mentioned. So your Water Environment Federation, which is the national equivalent of CWEA, California Water Environment Association. But the short answer is most of those are industry affiliated, and so for example, CMSA as their own organization, they have a fairly regular stream of industry-specific awards that are intended to be objective evaluations and rankings, but nothing really that I'm aware of along the lines of the ISO or the sort of national level like the Malcolm Baldrige. I would note, though, kind of along those lines, a little bit off topic, but it was an interesting note. The Standard & Poor's, and I think at least one of the other major rating agencies, actually have just completed seeking public comment on starting to consider looking at public utilities that are doing bond issuances to see what level of formal asset management program they have in place. And that, I think, is not quite what you're referring to, but it was actually a very notable because the formal asset management program, benefits and benchmarking have been out there through national organizations and sponsored by EPA and others, but they've been just somewhat, arbitrary as far as how people have used them. It's been entirely up to agencies. And no one has been coming in and saying, well, we expect you to have these, and we're going to look for them. And to have your bond rating, your national bond rating agencies actually starting to consider, do you have something that is widely recognized as a high quality and consistent approach to your asset management program is a big step somewhat in that direction. It's independent, it's national, it's objective. It would come in and say, okay, here's criteria for evaluating your capital and asset management program, and it's just getting off the ground. They just were seeking public input before they consider adopting that. So that's a huge incentive for utilities that are very capital-intensive industries to start considering more formal, adoption of those standards. So.
Okay, what should we give direction to staff to?
Well, this is going to cost money, correct?
So he's
almost certainly.
Yeah. So we didn't come up. Did you say we have how much in the
we
like
have
40,000?
somewhere north of 40,000.
But we've had money from previous years that
Well,
we rolled
we
over
don't,
that we never used.
We sort of use those terms sometimes, but this district doesn't carry over funds in that manner, they just re-budget. So this fiscal year, which, only has, a handful of months left to run, we have that money available to at least jumpstart it if we get to that stage. And I think the main takeaway for this is something that we can envision being, I would suggest to the board, hopefully in the low tens of thousands, like a $10,000 to $20,000 effort.
I was not thinking of anything.
Yeah, not $100,000.
Matter of fact, the more simple it is, the better.
We will bring back like the costs.
Yes, we bring back the work plan and costs.
Is that okay with the board?
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item 12, consideration of participating in mail ballot election for LAFCO, regular and alternate special district member seats.
Okay, so the board has done this before, and I think last did this in, I think it was 2013, but it's just a fairly regular process. LAFCO has a regular seat and an alternate seat coming open. They have specific seats reserved for different groupings, and the special districts are one of them. So the Ross Valley Sanitary District, as a member agency of LAFCO, does have a vote in this election. We vote as an agency. We get one vote per agency. And what you have in front of you in the staff report is basically just the outline of the process and then the related materials that were provided to the district from LAFCO. So what you have in front of you this evening is basically the ballot, and your business is to essentially cast a vote as a district for the regular special district member, and you have the list of candidates there, and we do have one of our directors, Director Meggs, on that candidate list. She has completed all the application process and so forth in coordination with LAFCO. And then as a separate vote, you have the alternate special district member. This would be the person who would then attend and fill that seat as an alternate to the regular one. So you want to vote for both. And lastly, they made a very repeated and important point. You need to select a first, second, and third choice in the event that there are, they need to make runoff decisions in a tie. So that's what you have in front of you, and hand it back to the board.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? You got to pick three.
I didn't know that you could work for both at the same time. I didn't know that either. I thought I looked carefully through all of the. Anyway, it's okay. It's all right. Well, I went to Citizens Marin for, I don't know if you'd call it a debate, but there were 4 of us there out of group 1. So I got to know some of the candidates. And it was a very interesting process, by the way. So from that evening, I got to hear and meet Lou and Justin and John and then the alternates were not there, but it's kind of a repeat.
Do we have to vote for, if we, it says we have to vote for 3, do we have to vote for the alternate? I think so, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did you say? You have to vote for 3.
And we also have to vote for the alternate.
Yeah. So, anyway, if you have questions about the people that were there, I could answer them. Or you can just look at their, our applications have there's applications for information. It was a very, I'm sorry.
Say again, who was there?
Lou, John, Justin, and myself. The others were not sure. questions were about 25 people. Frank was there, right, Frank?
I was there.
Okay, so you can talk more about it. It was not easy. I thought there were really difficult questions, but it's an important position, so. And they are a citizens group who looks at not only environmental issues, but planning issues. And it was videotaped, and it was for 2 hours. No, hour and a half. So you want me to tell you who I would vote for? Would that help?
Well, I mean,
Or you go
they're
first.
suggesting we vote for 3, right?
What?
No, you have to.
We don't have to.
You have to
Yes.
rank them. You have to rank them.
No bullet balloting.
They void the ballot if you don't vote for 3.
You think? No.
That's what it says at the bottom.
You have weird rules.
It says at the bottom of the staff report.
Marin left.
Yeah, and their highlight, your ranking of second and third
The last
is
one?
required. Attachment A.
If ballots are received without ranking, the
No.
ballot will be deemed invalid.
Who made that determination?
LAFCO.
Really?
Okay, so we all vote for 3.
Based on the paper, I mean, and tell me if I'm missing something, it seems some folks didn't provide any real background to, okay. And then, you know, some folks seem to take it seriously and type and get letters of recommendation, like Pam, and then some people wrote in Big Pen.
Do you know Ron?
I don't know his name.
So when I looked at those, I thought, you know, Pam, obviously, Lou and Jack Baker, neither of which I know very much personally about at all, but they seem to take the process seriously. Those, both Lou and Jack Baker also ran for the alternate, so I thought we could list them in our alternate choices, and so then there'd just be a question of who else is the alternate. That's based fully on the paper, so I'm curious how how it shook out.
I'll say my 2 cents and then Frank can. So Jack Baker is actually currently the alternate for Dennis Rodoni, who is leaving. I do know that. He was not there though, and I don't know him. I don't know anything about him, but that's all I can say. Lou, I would not vote for because he focused that he needed to be a representative of Southern Marin. LAFCO doesn't work with specific areas. LAFCO works with all the areas. It just doesn't say, well, I'm there just to represent the Ross Valley. It's not how Land Formation Agency, who they are and how they started. So that kind of set me back. And then one person wanted to consolidate everything, and that was John. So, and Justin is a very young, dedicated community leader. So, and he was there, and I met with him. So I would vote. It's hard for me. For the first part, I would vote for Justin 3, Jack Baker 2nd, and my first, number 1 for me.
So you'd say Justin and Jack.
Yeah, but you gotta put them 1, 2, 3, right? Just crazy. And then on the bottom, I don't know who Ron is. And Frank, what do you think?
Well, we have a ballot form here for the regular. Is there one for the alternate?
Yeah, it's sort of very.
It's way in the back, it's
Yeah.
attachment C, but let's do the regulars.
Keep flipping back to see attachment C. It's.
Right. Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
you kind of have to go.
See, I'm wondering if Almonte and Richardson Bay Sanitary District were in that LAFCO election. Remember where they tried to consolidate the 4 districts there?
All of them are. Almonte was part of it.
Just Almonte and Richardson Bay.
Yeah. Well, I thought
Tiverton
there were
was.
3, weren't there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Homestead and
Yeah,
Alta,
Sask.
but they're not on here.
Well, but Lou is and John. And Brad Beadle is on fire department.
Yeah, so I wouldn't vote, I don't think you should vote for Almonte.
No, I'm not.
I guess you would, that's right.
You said C?
Harry, who were you saying you are?
For the regular, she said Pam herself, obviously, Jack Baker, and Justin Kai. So
Though
And what were your thoughts?
Frank, do you know Jack?
I do.
Uh-huh. And,
I'd go Megs, Kai, and Baker.
what?
I'd go Megs, Kai, and Baker.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on that. You're right. I agree on that.
Well,
And then for the alternate,
I would do
yeah, I know, well, he said he was just interested in fire district representation, so to Pam's point, that this is, would be asking everybody to think more broadly, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Mary, who were the three that you preferred?
Well, I actually said based on the paper, based on the paper alone, Lou Hios. I've heard that name before also, but I have no.
CMSA.
Ah,
No,
Yeah.
Sasson.
oh, Sasson, okay. But I have no problem receiving that to more direct
That's
information.
okay.
Okay,
So why don't we,
so should we do it one at a
do
time,
Lou
or?
as one on the alternate,
Okay, all together? Okay, okay.
Jack is two. Oh, there's Kai. We don't know about this.
So for the alternate, who would be the third person? You would be
Jack.
Oh, okay.
I would do justice on.
Well, see, you did put Justin ahead of him. That's what you did on the other one.
That's right.
Justin 1, Baker 2, who 3?
We have to vote 3, right?
Yep.
I would not vote for Lou. He just was angry and just Southern
See, and I
Marin.
don't think you should vote.
I don't
Richardson
know.
or Illinois.
Okay, then go Beetle,
Brad?
the fire person. Kai, Baker, Beetle?
Can't fill out the form.
I've got no
Beal.
What?
preference.
What do you, so do you want us to go down the line, or how do you want us
Well,
to do?
so far we've got, so for the regular seat, we've got Director Meggs, I think we said Kai.
Yeah,
would
second.
be- Would be
Yeah.
second,
Baker
was third.
and Baker was third.
Yeah, does that work for everybody, or?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so,
Okay, so we're covered there on that one.
yeah,
And then Justin is one on the alternate. Jack Baker is two.
Mhm.
And I think maybe Brad Beal.
Why Brad?
That's fine.
because he's not part of another sanitary.
Because it's not on the sanitary. If,
All right,
I'd
that's
like to have an
fine.
all sign mode. We have a clean copy.
Yeah, but it does put 2 Novato people on the alternates.
It does, you're right.
Well, because there's always one involved.
All right.
Yeah, Nevada's going on top.
So we're all clear about that? I move-
He's ranked three. He ranked it third.
But yeah, maybe not.
I wouldn't worry about the third alternate.
So,
So I move that as described. We're clear on what was described? Yes, okay.
Okay, you got a motion?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Okay.
Are we done?
I can sign that.
Item 30.
Item 30.
Okay.
Let's
Let's get going. 13, consideration of April regular board meeting changed from the 15th to the 22nd.
So moved.
Okay, good, because I couldn't make 15th. Okay, so is that okay?
Yeah, it works for me. I would so move to
Okay.
authorize it.
Second?
No.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good.
That's easy.
General managers report.
I don't have anything that we haven't already covered.
Okay, thank you. 15, verbal report by board members and request for future agenda items. We were going to discuss the finance and committees, maybe.
Oh, the special,
Put that on the agenda.
the standing committees that talk about how often they should meet.
Yeah.
And maybe terms of reimbursement. And, you know,
We could pay a different rate for those committees. You know.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
You do?
We could.
Oh, we could, you're right, you're right, you're
Modify
right.
your policy.
We could change that, yes, that's true, that's true, that's true.
But you gotta be there, it cuts in the middle of the day, but maybe not the full thing.
I've been kind of asking about getting a report on spills, you know, since we've been in the headlines for so long, and to my knowledge, we're doing a pretty good job, and I think we need to get a report on here, a mid-year report or something like that,
Yes.
to let people know that, guess what, the spills have dropped dramatically. I know you just go to the state website and get it right off there without doing a lot
No,
of work.
we have like 80% of what I needed to provide it to. John has already compiled all that. And it just slipped through the cracks with everything going on. So we will bring you that report, and it is generally very good news. I mean, as you guys basically know, obviously it was a bit of a dry winter, but we had some pretty major storms. And just overall, even during the dry weather conditions, the frequency and severity of SSOs is just way down. And that's the direction we want to see it go. So we will bring you that just as an informational item, attach it to the next staff report, and if there's more stuff we want to do with it, we can follow up. So.
And we can always just forward it on to the state too, I mean.
And we are doing,
information
just as a quick kind of related item, we do these quarterly reports to the regional board as part of the cease and desist order compliance. Those have been going very smoothly, and the next one is going to go out for April 1st as the next quarterly report. So the trends are all in the right direction, but we want to get some numbers in front of you so you can see the facts.
I want to say one quick thing. I don't know if I can. I kind of make just a little announcement about a meeting that's coming up, maybe other board members might like. So the supervisors, county supervisors, Tuesday the 24th at 10 o'clock, Zero Waste is going to be involved, but I got an email from Renee Goddard, and so they'll be talking about pharmaceuticals, being in wastewater, and I sent you the flush.
Oh yeah, we get.
That was an incredible story about flushables and how they are just horribly messing up wastewater treatment centers and everything. So I'm hoping that eventually that maybe this board could, maybe this isn't a future agenda item, we could come to some kind of way to educate the community about wastewater and these things and how they affect us. Even if it's just a little blog board or a manager's report board, a link, and I think Michael and I talked about this too. To me, that's kind of the fun things to do more. So I'm going to go to that meeting on Tuesday and see what happens. And by the way, Marin General does not have a pharmaceutical drop-off. So they're hit and miss. They're not on a continuum, which to me, if these molecules are not totally getting out of the wastewater and they're going into the bay, I just think people need to know more about it. And maybe they could go to some meetings.
We have a meeting on April 1st.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yes, special meeting, the only topic on the agenda, we haven't posted it yet, but we will several days ahead. It'll be your opportunity to meet and discuss the draft report from the state auditor's office.
Oh, right.
So.
It's in the evening, right?
It's on Wednesday, 5:30. I think it's April 1st. Yeah.
And that's only a closed session.
Yeah. It's the only item on the agenda is just to meet and discuss that because we have a very limited timeline. We'll get the report that Friday prior. We'll get it. It has a very limited distribution because it's still treated as a confidential document. And then, so we'll get the report on Friday. We'll distribute it. We'll meet on Wednesday evening you'll have an opportunity to consider whether you want to provide a written response to it. And if we do, we'll craft that, and it has to be emailed PDF and then by close of business Thursday. It's a very fast turnaround. basically 5 business days. So that, yes, that is, I sent out some communications to the board on that, but that's a good reminder.
Are we also going to meet again before our next meeting with the union? You know what's going on with the union?
Oh, no, there's nothing scheduled, Pam.
Okay, just so I know my calendar.
Yeah, no, there's no other meeting scheduled. You have your April 1st special meeting, and at this point, based on the action you just took, we'll meet on April 25th for the regular, I'm sorry, April 22nd for the regular April meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Well, I'm just gonna make a quick report. CMSA and Marin Municipal Water District have been working on, there's a contractor working on opportunities for wastewater reuse, reclamation and reuse. There's an interesting report out, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'll email it to Greg and let Greg email it to the board. It's talking about potable,
Indirect and direct potable reuse.
direct potable reuse, for one, in areas, San Quentin State Prison, an area around Central River Sanitation Agency, including Santa Fe and maybe Larchmont Landing, an area up to Kentfield, and they're talking about putting in possibly a satellite treatment plant that would pick up some of this wastewater coming down, rather than letting it come all the way into Santa Fe, treating it, and then trying to pump it back up to some other location to use, actually having a satellite treatment plant, and that's supposedly the 21st century stuff. But this is real rough. It's real preliminary. So don't get too excited with it. But I think our board should be aware as to just what folks are talking about.
Yes, you guys pushed very hard for that study. It's taken a long time to get produced, we think. But it's been mentioned at the JPA managers meetings, just that it was pending, and we've been providing information to them on the request to help them finish it up. Just seems like our pump station flows. But as far as I know, that full report will be available to the board. So as soon as we've gotten something, we'll be happy to send it out to everybody. I agree. I think it makes for a very interesting reading in terms of the bigger water resources picture for the community. So.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, guys.